If you thought Canada's economy was broken, the latest StatsCan numbers just shattered it. Since 2021, Canada's added 3 million people. Last month, we created just 54,000 jobs. On paper, they're calling that a boom. In real life, it's a slow bleed. The headlines say growth. Your wallet says collapse. They clap in Parliament while you're counting gas by the quarter tank and watching your grocery bill eat your family's future. This isn't mismanagement, it's a designed squeeze. Flood the country with 100,000 people a month. Toss them a handful of jobs and call it progress. The charts go up, your future disappears underneath them. That's not prosperity, it's a staged recovery, and most Canadians have no idea how deliberate this really is. In this video, I'll show you exactly how this so-called boom was engineered to crush the very people it promised to protect. First, the part they'll never print in a headline, how Canada added over 3 million people, and somehow only created 54,000 jobs last month. That's not a glitch, it's pressure, engineered straight into your paycheck. Second, why those jobs sound like progress, but are quietly eroding the middle class. It's not just how many jobs we added, it's what kind of jobs they were, and who they were really built for. And third, the stat they buried, the one that flips this whole recovery on its head, where those jobs actually came from. Not tech, not trades, not growth. And once you see it, you'll understand exactly what's collapsing and why they can't say it out loud. Celebrating a few thousand jobs in the face of an unprecedented population surge isn't just misleading, it's a betrayal of the Canadian dream. In the same 30 days, Canada added over 100,000 new people. Let's say every single one of those jobs went to a newcomer. That would only cover about half the people who just arrived, which means everyone already here is now fighting harder for fewer opportunities, more resumes, fewer callbacks, more hours worked, for less to show for it, more effort, less stability. That's not a job market, that's a bottleneck, and it's built to jam. So when your kid tells you they're struggling to find work, maybe they're not lazy, maybe they're not being picky, maybe they're just telling the truth, because the jobs just aren't there. Not the kind that build futures, not the kind that build families, and definitely not the kind you raise them to believe in. They say we're adding jobs, but they don't say who those jobs are really for, and they definitely don't say what kind of jobs they are. When we dig in, you'll see exactly how these job numbers were engineered to sound like growth while delivering the opposite. This isn't about recovery, it's about control. What you're about to see won't be in any press release, but once you do, you'll never look at Canada's job numbers the same again. They say we added jobs last month, and technically we did. But here's the catch. Every single one of those 54,000 jobs was part-time. Full-time employment didn't rise, it fell by 9,000. So the entire job growth number was just a shuffle, swapping steady work. For shifts, you don't build a middle class on gig hours and food service wages, you build burnout, a patchwork of side hustles, split shifts, and entry-level roles, where one job isn't enough, and two still don't cover rent. And this isn't a one-month fluke, it's a pattern that's been building all year. In the last 3 months alone, part-time jobs grew 5 times faster than full-time ones. And it's not in tech, not in trades, not in anything that builds long-term prosperity. It's retail, hospitality, service roles with low pay, and even lower security. These are not stepping stones, they're survival plans. They don't come with benefits, they don't build credit, they don't qualify you for a mortgage, they barely keep the lights on. They call it flexibility, but really, it's fragility. The kind where one sick day can unravel your entire month. And when you multiply that across millions of workers, you don't get a resilient economy, you get a house of cards, because when you grow the population by over 100,000 a month, without growing the economy, you don't get opportunity, you get dilution. More people chasing the same jobs, and many of those jobs aren't the kind you can build a life on. A job that pays $1,200 a month in a city where rent is $2,200 isn't a job, it's a trap. And wages, they're not keeping up, not even close. While the average paycheck has gone up in dollar terms, real wages, what that money actually buys, are down because everything else has moved faster. Grocery prices are still climbing. Essentials like food and rent are still spiking, and inflation is chewing through every raise you thought you got. Between 2020 and 2022, 64% of Canadian workers lost purchasing power, not some, most. And in 2025, that gap hasn't closed. Wages are up about 3.6%, but inflation is still hovering around 4%, and way higher for the stuff that actually matters. So no, you're not imagining it, your wallet really is shrinking. And there's another problem hiding in plain sight. The one thing that's supposed to make everyone better off is collapsing. Canada has seen 6 straight quarters of falling productivity, the worst streak on record. That means we're putting in more hours, but producing less. And when output per worker falls, it creates a trap, because businesses can't raise pay without raising prices, and around we go. We're running faster just to stay in place. And this is why all the top line numbers feel fake. GDP is going up, but only because there are more people, not because anyone's getting ahead. In fact, per person, the Canadian economy is shrinking, more work, more workers, but less to show for it. This isn't just a bad quarter, it's a broken loop. And the more we rely on headline growth to cover it, the worse the real numbers get. This is how you end up in a country that looks rich from above, but feels broken from the ground. Because if you zoom out, the math doesn't lie, job quality is down, real wages are down, productivity is down, living standards are down. But GDP, that's up. They call it growth, but it's really just math. More people, dividing up the same pie, and somehow being told they should be grateful for the crumbs. This isn't just spin, it's a quiet redistribution. Not from rich to poor, but from present to future, we're mortgaging stability to buy headlines. And if we don't name that, we can't fix it. This is what it looks like when job growth becomes a costume. And economic strength is just a story we tell ourselves. But if you've been feeling the pressure, you're not wrong, because what's growing isn't your opportunity. It's the gap between what we're promised and what we're actually getting. Now, here's what they didn't tell you about those 54,000 new jobs. They weren't spread across the workforce. They weren't balanced across industries. And they definitely weren't built for the next generation. Here's the stat that flips the whole recovery on its head. Every single one of those job gains came from people aged 55 and up. Let that sink in. Canadians under 55 actually lost jobs. Young people, new grads, new families, they didn't get lifted. They got sidelined. So if your son just moved back into your basement, if your daughter with a degree is stuck doing DoorDash, it's not their ambition that's broken, it's the system. We're not building futures anymore, we're just reshuffling desperation. And it gets worse, because when you dig into where those jobs came from, it wasn't tech, it wasn't trades, it wasn't housing, it wasn't anything that builds wealth. Over half of them came from one category: healthcare and social assistance. And at first, that might sound like a good thing, but it's not a sign we're thriving. It's a sign we're breaking. We're not hiring to grow, we're hiring to contain collapse. Not expanding a healthy society, expanding the infrastructure of crisis, because no country explodes hiring and social services unless something's gone deeply wrong. More social workers, more addiction support, more mental health staff, more emergency care. You don't scale your trauma response systems unless the number of people in crisis is exploding. And that's exactly what's happening. We're building a trauma ward economy, where the fastest growing job sectors aren't about building wealth. They're about managing damage. Damage from inflation, from housing insecurity, from lost income and lost hope. This job growth they keep celebrating, it's not a recovery, it's a reaction to how many Canadians are falling through the cracks. This is what they call progress, a job market built on survival wages, staffing systems that only exist because society is under pressure. And even then, it's not enough, because while we added 54,000 jobs, we added over 100,000 people in the same month. So we're hiring just enough to react to the damage we're causing, not enough to reduce it. That's not growth, that's triage. And triage doesn't scale. Look, I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you so you stop blaming yourself for falling behind. You're not crazy. The system really is built this way. And yeah, I get it. I'm a realtor. You're thinking, sure, now comes the pitch, fair. But here's the difference. I'm not here to push you into a sale. I'm here to make sure you don't get blindsided by one. Because the wrong move in this market, it won't just sting, it can set you back 10 years. Which brings us back to you. If you're a homeowner watching this and asking yourself what the next step even is, you're not alone in this economy. Your home isn't just where you live, it's your last financial stronghold. When wages fall short, when your dollar shrinks every month, your equity is one of the few tools you've got left, but only if you use it right. So if you just need clarity on what your options are, I built something for you. It's a free seller guide made for this exact market. It's not a generic download, it's built for real families in this region. Hamilton, Oakville, Guelph, Waterloo, Burlington, every neighborhood feeling this squeeze in real time. Inside, you'll get 7 proven ways to increase your home's value by 5 to 10% before you list. A step-by-step seller checklist that puts you 10 steps ahead of the average homeowner. And a real-time price estimate based on what your home could actually sell for right now. Most people get their custom price in under 5 minutes. No pressure, no obligation, just clarity. And I made it for the 99% of people I'll never work with. Because this market doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards preparation. So if you want to make the right call for your future, start here. Click the link below, get the guide, own the outcome before someone else owns it for you.